Episode 6 of the Trauma Code begins with Kan-hyuk pretty chuffed with himself given the great PR that's doing the rounds after his heroic deeds with the bridge accident. Hilariously, he even leaves comments for himself on the posts, arrogantly calling himself sexy. Jang-mi scoffs at this and walks away. After a quick slap on the head, Kan-hyuk speaks to his protege and explains that he's doing all this to help the reputation of the hospital. It certainly does the trick, and Director Choi is similarly taken aback when he finds out that the budgetary improvement has been greenlit for the trauma unit. Director Choi sees all of this as a personal attack against himself, given the helicopter was called out 5 times in the last week, and he encourages Director Hong to double down on making life tough for Kan-hyuk. When he speaks to Yurim about the budget, the guy is actually happy, and given Ji-young's life was hanging in the balance, is it any surprise? Jae-hun is determined to clip Kan-hyuk's wings though, seeing this as a personal vendetta. Of course, our good doctor doesn't concern himself with petty squabbles as he's too busy dealing with surgery. Kan-hyuk is exasperated as there's a newbie there by the name of Agnes, a Catholic whom he's not happy with babysitting. However, he's more annoyed that another accident has been called in and the gang aren't allowed to move out in the helicopter to pick them up. The National Rescue Unit have been transferred, which is a move from the directors, specifically Jae-hun, let's be honest here, to block him from wasting hospital resources. He'll now need to officially call it in using the proper channels. As a result of this, Kan-hyuk and Jae-won need to try and help the patient over the phone. Jae-won tells them to get to the entrance of the hiking trail, allowing them to find a workaround, and that's using a brand new and used ambulance in the parking lot. Kan-hyuk is an absolutely insane driver and he races there in record time. Jae-won is dizzy and needs a minute when they stop, but they do manage to get the patient and transport him back to the ER. This time, Jang-mi is in the driver's seat while Kan-hyuk and Jae-won work on this patient. Given the patient has a brain hemorrhage, they've got no choice but to make an incision and try to work on him in the ambulance. The trouble is, they've arrived here way too late and it seems like the patient is a lost cause. Jae-won is ready to throw in the towel, but Kan-hyuk remains steadfast in trying to save the guy no matter what. As he says to his protege, every minute wasted talking is a moment the patient edges closer to death. The patient is still alive when they arrive at the hospital, thankfully, but there's a downside here. Unfortunately, too much time has passed and the patient, even if they make a full recovery, is going to be left in a vegetative state. It's a good way of showing the negative effects of putting finances in front of people's lives, and it's had a devastating impact here. Yurim gives Kan-hyuk the news that the grounded helicopter is all the work of Director Hong. He's absolutely livid and pushes the guy in his office before storming out. This is definitely going to have ramifications, and that hits Yurim hard. Director Hong is livid and tells him that he's going to destroy Kan-hyuk, knowing that he has dirt on the guy he can use. A lot of this stems from Kan-hyuk's controversial past with the Black Wings, but Yurim is not budging. Director Hong warns that he's going to take all the funding from his department and it seems like he's going to crack, but Yurim shows his allegiance, standing by Kan-hyuk's side given how he helped save his daughter. That night, Kan-mi calls Jae-won to the roof of the old building to talk. Well, kinda. She encourages him to yell into the vents. This is her way of de-stressing and getting some of the anger and frustration she's felt for so long out into the open. She wants Jae-won to do the same thing, but he's never cursed before so he does it once and it ends with Jang-mi giggling. It's not Kan-hyuk who gets through to Jae-won this time though, it's this feisty nurse, who encourages him to keep going and not give up. He reminds her of a younger version of herself and after de-stressing, it seems to get through to him. Kan-hyuk calls Jae-won down to the cafeteria and together, they sit and eat. Jae-won tries to apologize but our protagonist cuts him off. He brings up his father passing in the car accident again and explains that back then, not a single hospital would take him in. This abandonment is something he's carried with him all this time, making him determined never to let another patient feel the way he did and making sure he continues this journey no matter what. Kan-hyuk isn't mad at Jae-won for giving up in the ambulance, knowing that there are going to be more tough days going forward that will test his resolve. Kan-hyuk also knows that the guy hasn't found his why yet, so until he does, he needs to keep fighting. Getting nowhere with Urim, Hong instead speaks to director Choi and hands over a thorough report on Kan-hyuk, intending to get rid of him this way. This stems from malpractice, and when another patient is brought in that afternoon, suits show and immediately stop Kan-hyuk from entering the surgical unit. Why is this? Well, it stems from the surgery inside the ambulance which caused that patient to become brain dead, which wasn't authorized. The family are looking to speak to the media and also press charges for excessive treatment. The patient's life is hanging in the balance, so Kan-hyuk races off to get answers, while he tasks Jae-won with looking after the patient. Playing politics while lives are hanging in the balance is a pretty disgusting tactic, but that's what the directors at the hospital are doing right now. We see firsthand exactly how damaging this can be, with patients' lives forever changed as a result of these bureaucratic decisions. Kan-hyuk could end up suspended for his actions here, especially after pushing Hong earlier on, but seeing Urim change and stick by Kan-hyuk's side after his daughter was saved is a pretty noble undertaking and definitely paints him in a more favorable light. It also helps that the show has developed the relationship between Kan-hyuk and Jae-won nicely, exploring the reasons for them continuing to work despite overwhelming odds hanging over their intentions. It works surprisingly well to bond them, and Jang-mi rounds out the trio in a good way too.